Roger, you were one of those officials with thick skin inside the department, hearing in the past about people who had been detained. Right now, why aren't we hearing more? You were part of the last administration's attempts to get these gentlemen out. There was a trade there. There was release of prisoners from the United States, people who had actually gone through the court system. And then there was also a release of about $6 billion in funds. That was hugely controversial, but it was a trade President Biden decided to carry out. Do these options not exist now?
Yeah, I mean, the options probably change. I can point out that the trade that we did in terms of money, that was from South Korea to Qatar. The money's not been touched. Not $1 went into Iran during that period. It was to be able to use for humanitarian items, and the Iranians never used it. And I think there probably are things that we should be considering, but I'll say just a few things. Number one, from experience, President Trump does care about this topic very much. We often say that this is the last nonpartisan or bipartisan issue, and that both President Trump, President Biden, and go back to probably the 1950s, you'll find American presidents that really cared about this. And as Netta said, President Trump has a pretty good track record here. I would say that, though, it's right now you're seeing the political, military, and economic degradation of Iran's capabilities, and that's kind of leading it. So you're going to see the military, of course, front and center in terms of trying to drive a strategy. And maybe the things that you might call as a political objective or a hostage objective might be off to the side or not necessarily coming up to fruition. I think it's our hope that if the president lists 4 war objectives, that the 5th objective is getting Americans out and maybe freeing all the other people that are kept in Evin prison. I think I've seen a list of probably just under 20, not only Americans, but Europeans as well. And I'm hopeful that whether that's an announced objective or whether that's off to the side, I'm hopeful that's on his list of things to do. But maybe the last thing I'll point out is the designation of Iran as a state sponsor of hostage diplomacy came out like a day or two prior to the war starting.
For the very first time it was used.
First time. And I think it was done for a reason. I think that Secretary of State Rubio, in making that announcement, was trying to say, this is important, we're watching it, but we have some military objectives that we need to work through first.
Mm-hmm. So you are confident that ultimately these Americans will be able to come out and that the administration will push for them?
You know, it's hard to say. I am confident that they will eventually come out. Yeah. I always used to say this about my 2 friends across the table here. We know how the story ends. The story ends with them coming out. It's just how much time and how much pain do you have to go through to get there. And I'm just hopeful that the administration is working that. I would have a belief that they are. Mm-hmm. I think this is the one area that I know President Trump cares deeply about, just as President Biden did. And I'd like to think that it's one of those objectives that's over here, and when it's time, it will come to the forefront. But I think just from where we are in terms of what's important to us, you know, deep down, I know we'd like to see that come out to the forefront earlier rather than later.